You see
Welcome back. It's still the big issue on TV3Newday, proudly brought to you by Niche Cocoa Drink and Niche Chocolate, as well as Niche Chocolate Paste. And still in the studios, Kojo Poku, energy expert, is here. Fred Agbenyo is the Deputy International Relations Manager for the NDC, and Isa Husseini, former MP, Okankwe North Constituency. I'll start off with you, Kojo, before we even go into the conversation with our other guests, because we need to understand. I mean, a lot of concerns have been raised since the PURC put out that statement indicating that electricity bills had been increased by some 27%, and not just that. In fact, it's 27.15%. Water has been increased by 21.55%. And even further is the fact that lifeline consumers, the brackets that they fell within, has been reduced as well. So no more 0 to 50 kilowatts per hour, but 0 to 30 kilowatts per hour. And there are a lot of concerns as well. But businesses are saying that at this time when we're reeling under the economic conditions that we find ourselves in, is this the right time to be increasing tariffs when we're already paying for so much with very limited salary?
Bella, thank you. And before my submission, I didn't thank my people out there, KMP family. Let me thank the KMP family and thank the people of Central Region. The people of Central Region, and they are doing a very good work. Look, let me...
Which particular constituency?
Well, I'm greeting the whole of the Central Region. I'm not greeting
why people on Kojo this morning?
But anyway, let me now go on to what the question you asked, Bella. Bella, look, if this morning businesses are asking why increase this time, the good news for businesses is that businesses, in some instances, the medium-scale businesses only have a 5% increase. What I'm telling you is not something I, Kojo Poku, is saying. If anybody who took the PURC announcement did the percentage calculation, when PURC said that electricity prices have been increased by 27%, it's an average of all the increases is what is the 27%. In some instances, it's 5%. In the lifeline bracket, it's 28.52%. In the residential bracket, it's 36.12%. We all heard our brother John Jinapo saying that, oh, it's not 27%, it's 36%.
So 36% for residential.
36% for residential customers, yes. 36% for residential customers. And 5% for small scale. What this government...
Why the disparities?
No, okay, so let me tell you what the policy is going forward. We in the civil society and AGI have always said that in the foreign world, we want to be pro-industry. In the Western world, businesses pay less and residential pay more. In Ghana, the reverse was the case, where industries pay more to cross-subsidize residential. We, as a nation, okay, trying to now move into an industrialized nation, need to empower businesses to basically have cheaper cost of electricity. So the energy cost of a business is very important. I have been consulting for a lot of companies, and one of the key issues they have is the business cost of input. Okay, now, if we are trying to do the intra-African free trade, and Ghanaian business are to compete, then the Ghanaian business need to have help in policy to compete. And one of the help that the government through PURC has done is basically say that, look, let's reverse the trend. Let residential now pay more and let businesses pay less. Now, in some of the banned tariff, and this is something that, one of the most annoying thing about for me now is that it's annoying because people don't read. When PURC issued this document, there are instances where there is even a reduction of the tariff. When you look at the non-residential customer, the 600 kilowatt plus band, okay, you
for
realize
electricity,
that
you
for
mean?
electricity, yes, the non-residential, the old tariff per kilowatt hour in GH per Suez is 133.9765. The new tariff is 133.09. So there's a 90% reduction for businesses that uses more than 600 kilowatts per hour in a month. So it's not that there's a cross-board 27% increase for everybody. No, that's not true.
Okay.
Last night, I spent a lengthy time with Ishmael from PURC and found out what's going on, because we, the civil society, sat down and we couldn't find where this 27% was coming from. And he said, no, what they announced was a summation of all the increment and found an average with 7. So there are 7 bands. They added all the increases and then divided by 7 to give an average of the 27, which is what they put out there.
I see.
But what their statement should have said is that an average increase of 27%.
Okay.
Now, there's even an instance where the SLT, which is the SLT is special load tariff.
Yes.
Okay. When you go down to the high voltage, the HV mines, their tariff don't even change. It's the same. There's no increase for them.
63, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we need
But there's an increase in service charge, by
yes,
the way.
the service charge increase is all across board. There's an increase in service charge.
Okay.
But the tariff itself for HV mines, there's no increase. So what PULC looked at, remember when this whole thing came out and people were looking at 130%, 400%, all this percent, those increases that ECG were asking for was not what was going to appear here. There is something called the distribution service charge. Okay. The distribution service charge is what goes to ECG. That was what ECG was asking for, 140% of the distribution service charge. What PULC would have done, take GMPC made a submission, Ghana Gas made a submission, Gridco made a submission. So all those feed into the value of what you get on this paper. What PULC did is that look at the broad value chain and said, okay, how can I give everybody what they want without burdening the Ghanaian? They went back and now looked at the gas input. If you look at this same document, the gas has been reduced marginally, but it is only the transmission that has been up a bit. Yeah. So they negotiated the gas a bit downwards so that they can get a savings from there. They've negotiated the PPAs with some of the companies to now make sure that the price, the input cost of the generation is gone down. So one of the things that Ghanaians have to be aware of is that the 27.1 increase is an average of all the 7 bands.
And you're saying that for businesses, small-scale businesses, 5% increase.
For small-scale businesses,
5%.
if you're using 0 to 300 kilowatt hour,
then it's
right,
5%.
It's 5% increase.
Okay.
If you're using 300 to 600, it is a 5%
And the 0
increase.
to 300 are the ones that they said they targeted, like the hairdressers,
Mostly
the
they are to
vulcanizers.
fall in between that. But you see, for me, that's where I think it was a bit ingenious by PLC to start mentioning hairdressers and those. Because a hairdresser that has 3-story building using 4 air conditions will definitely fall outside the 300. So what the ideal of the 300 band is somebody that probably has 1 AC. Okay. Now, it's difficult to say that these are the band because in the ECG tariff band, they don't have those categories. What they have is residential and non-residential.
But let's take a look at the Ghana Hotels Association because they are complaining that at this point, when we're barely even meeting our revenue targets, this is not the time to increase
so the Ghana Hotel
electricity because that means that we'll have to transfer the cost to the consumer.
They've not read this document.
But they're saying that whichever way, even if it's a 2% increase,
no, but a hotel will have
we'll have to transfer it to the consumer.
But a hotel will have a reduction. If a hotel would be a non-residential, consuming 600 plus more, a hotel would definitely consume more than 600. He's got a reduction as per this PLC announcement. Okay. It's a reduction. So people should read.
Should this have been higher? Because the Africa Center for Energy Policy had said that if you look at the factors that the PURC used in deciding what percentage increase we should get for tariffs, it was actually low and unrealistic compared to the real situation on the ground. Because exchange rate at this point, we all know that it's nearing 10 cedis. And so if you are using a lower exchange rate, in the next 3 months, we can't guarantee that the exchange rate will be any better. For all you know, the cedi will even fall more. So how do you use that? In actual fact, they should have increased it by a higher margin than what we're seeing now.
No, it's true. We've all had that concern. And again, you know, I belong to a group called COSECA. COSECA is a much bigger umbrella under the civil society. We are going to issue a statement in the coming weeks. Look, it is understandable that the inflation rate they use about 16%, the FX is 7.5 and all that. We think that they should have done a much higher. But you see, in their thinking, some of these things might be transient. Okay, so you might be in a turbulent situation where you will come out of it. You are doing a 3-year projection where you're going to have a quarterly adjustment. So there is an opportunity for PULC to sit first quarter next year to look at all these things. Okay. And I think that if the government is able to do what they are supposed to do, which is basically bring down the inflation, get the strength of the city to come up so that the city now comes a bit stronger. By first quarter, PULC can look at this and see that, okay, we looked at a certain averages to arrive at this. In first quarter of 2023, whatever that will happen would have happened, right? So they can now take that into consideration and adjust it accordingly. But this is just, I would say this is for the 3-year adjustment. But PULC also had the mandate to do the automatic adjustment every quarter. So the next review that they will do is probably end of year or first quarter. But
it also depends on the inflation rates going down.
All of them. It depends on...
And the FX.
And FX, yes.
Issa, what are you doing about this? Because Ghanaians can't keep paying more.
Yes, Ghanaians
if you
can
have the
keep
power
more.
to control inflation and you have the power to also control the exchange rate to some extent, what are you doing about that? Certainly,
Ghanaians can pay more, like you said, but given where we are today, given the state of our economy, given the challenges, I mean, it's public knowledge, and the government itself has admitted that we are not in normal times. But given the situation, you recollect that this utilities actually required much higher increments than PURC actually did. Water wanted about 300% increment in tariffs. Similarly, electricity required 148% increment. They ended up with 21% and 51% because of some of the things, like Kojo said, the strategy going forward, making sure that as residential, there's differential pricing to fit the purpose of which these utilities are being used for. But you see, much as we identify that we are in harder times, those institutions will have to be kept afloat, because we recollect in time past where, because of lack of investment, and even though tariffs were increased, we find ourselves in a situation in Dumsokbai for which the government of the NDC couldn't find their way around, and that caused the economy so much for a long time. I'm saying that no, I am just. It is also important that we situate this in proper context.
We
so
want
people
to know what you're doing now, not what NDC may have gotten wrong in the past. How are you fixing it now?
Appreciating what we are doing now, and appreciating the efforts that we are putting in now, we have to also situate the situation in the right context. In the right context, the strategy going forward, making sure that, look, we are going to put these pricing differentials so we get the right people to pay the right tariffs. It is important for us to remind Ghanaians that even though we are not in normal times, averagely over the last 6 years, electricity price, if you compare, I mean, we had the opportunity in 2018 to reduce the same tariffs by 21%. If you look cumulatively over 6 years, electricity tariffs have gone up by only 18%, relative to what the NDC did. And that between 2012 and 2016, cumulatively, the same tariffs went up by 149%. 149% relative to 6 years. You are having 18%, and we are still not in the situation that they left us.
But you see, you came
in this whole difficult situation,
gave us free, and then you made us pay for that as well. We're paying higher for it.
Oh, we are paying higher, but I'm telling you that cumulatively over 6 years.
Yes.
Cumulatively over 6 years.
There's a reason why the NDC was voted out.
Because of the efficiency.
They probably did not get it right.
Because of the efficiency we have in the system today.
You promised that you do right by us. We voted you into power. Yes, you came, you reduced it.
Yes.
You even promised us free, and then eventually we started paying.
That
so
is
it wasn't even free.
Exactly,
now you have increased it.
Exactly the
so
reason
how are you
why,
fixing this? Because we cannot say we're always referring to the NDC and what they got wrong. What are you doing?
I am putting the situation in the right context for you to appreciate what the government of the New Patriotic Party is done over the last 6 years.
What have they done? Because as it stands now, inflation is at 31.7%.
Oh, of course.
CD to dollar is almost 10 cedis.
Don't forget
what is affecting our pockets at the moment.
A year ago, inflation was about 6%. A year ago. And this is not unique to the Ghanaian situation. Everywhere in the world. Yesterday, the US, they signed into effect the Inflation Reduction Act. Every country is finding ways to come out of the peculiar situation we all find ourselves everywhere on earth. Everywhere on earth. But I'm telling you that even in this situation, the government of the New Patriotic Party, this is what we have done. Given the challenges, given where crude prices went, and thankfully they are coming down. We know we have issues with our FX. We have issues with our FX. I am sure that we are not sitting afloat. As we speak today, the NPC is meeting to look at the inflationary pressures.
But we're even told that the policy rates can increase by some 200 basis points. But even before that,
what we need
let's
to keep
localize
the
this
tab on inflation and the forex situation. If that is what we need.
We've done that how many times this year already?
If that is what we need.
It still has not, solved the problem. But let's not get into that now. Hold on. Let's localize this context that you're giving us. Because if I live in a kiosk, and I'm probably just using just a few electric items, so you're telling me that my lifeline now has been reduced from 50 kilowatts to 30 kilowatts. How is this benefiting me?
You see, it all fits into the strategy or going forward of letting residential or domestic consumers pay more than industrial A. So by the revision of that bracket, it's putting you in another bracket, and industry is benefiting from it. Industry is benefiting from it. So the person who stays in the kiosk, who now is the lifeline is defined from 50 kilowatts to 30 kilowatts. Remember, the person will be going to work. The person has to work and all of that. If industry is benefiting, ultimately,
how would I benefit if my salary still remains the same?
But if your company is paying less in utilities and is making more profits, it's things that they probably could pay you much higher. It things that they could probably give you a higher bonus.
But if I'm a street hawker,
than what? If you're
I sell oranges, or I sell my own wares, on the street.
Don't forget,
you're telling me that the industry will benefit,
it's a
and then I'll benefit.
Effect.
But I don't work for any company.
When somebody
I sell
works,
oranges.
When somebody works in TV3 and makes more income, he's going to go out there to spend. Whatever income you make, you either save or you spend. So if you're making more income from TV3 and you get out there, you're going to buy, probably, you used to buy just a pack of Indomie. Now that you're making more money, you're going to buy double what it is. And so the Indomie, it's a multiplier once consumption goes on. Once you are able to put more money in the pockets of people, consumption goes up, it spurs up the economy. That's what we need to do.
So if a committee at the Bank of Ghana is meeting today, we're told by Bloomberg that it's going to increase
that's
a projection rate, a projection, yes, but it could happen.
I think
it could happen by some 200 basis points. So that means that lending rates could move from some 19% to about 21%. Guta has spoken. They are saying that if that happens, it makes it even more expensive for us. So we will also put that cost on products, goods and services. So at the end of the day, we'll have a ripple effect on the regular Ghanaian who will now have to pay more for these products. And you're telling me that if you cushion these companies, regardless, we'll still buy a lot more things. But things will be more expensive on the market for us.
Things might be more expensive. But you see, given our situation now, we are not just using monetary policies. We're also looking at the physical bit. As a nation, I've heard IFS speak today, and they are telling the government to have a look at our wage bill. They are suggesting that we look at flagship policies. But you see, we have repeatedly said that whatever situation we find ourselves in, it is not the flagship policies, because we have spent just about 15.3 billion this far in planting for food, in free SHS and all of that. Given where we are, if we had found ourselves in a better place, if probably the meat had not been chewed to the bone, and distance would not be an issue. But unfortunately, because of global situations, this is where we find ourselves in. So we are looking at the physicals, we are looking at the monetary. It is not just a case of MPC raising up the inflationary pressures everywhere. They need to mop up excess liquidity in the system, if indeed there are. Other economists are of the view that, look, government even has to spend more to be able to spare up the economy. So it is a case of looking at the two sides of the equation, the monetary and the physical space. The MPC will do, but I'm sure the Ministry of Finance itself, it's brought out quite a number of policies, making sure that, look, we still are going to be within our deficit bracket. We are not going to ask in the media review. We didn't ask for any more money to. Rather, we cut down on expenditure. And look, given
how
the
does that help a young person? If the finance minister is telling me at this point that the public sector is full and so they cannot, take in more people, so I should become an entrepreneur, I would need a loan from the bank.
Not, you see,
if I go to the bank, the lending rates are high. And so I'm going to even have to pay a lot more on that.
That is why government...
Now I'm paying that, I'm going to have to pay tariffs.
That is why government is also looking at... How am I going to
survive?
Government is just not looking at you going to the high street bank to be able to borrow. That's why government is looking at specific programs. Like the U-Start.
It hasn't started. When is it starting? If I have a business idea today, I need to feed. And you're telling me I should start a business. And up to this point, you have not started U-Start for me to even come for the loan. I don't have a choice than to walk into the bank.
It won't be too long.
How long? I'm hungry now.
We are in August. I gather that is. You're hungry now.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if I am hungry now, you're telling me that I won't find a job if I come to your institution. So I should start my own business. I need a loan. And you're saying that opportunity will start soon. How soon?
I keep trying to situate this in the right context for you, right? Hitherto, if previous governments have had this attempt and have spurred on and have created opportunities like that, we wouldn't be where we are.
Can you imagine?
We wouldn't be where we are.
Imagine, Bella.
We are saying that, look, these are policy options that we're giving to the young people of this country. In time past, before before the creation of NAPCO. We had unemployed.
You own NAPCO, by the way, 10 months.
We owe
Just a
them. But
reminder,
in the mid-year budget review, the minister gave a roadmap as to how we are going to deal with NAPCO.
He didn't talk about paying them.
Oh, he did.
What did he say about that? What did he say?
By September, we are going to get to all of this rolled back.
Every NAPCO personnel will get their 10 months allowance by September. You said this before.
Go back.
They didn't get their money.
Back to the mid-year
You said this before. They didn't get their money. You are sure that by September they will get it?
Mid-year.
Even Dr. Anyas was here. He told us that when he leaves, that weekend or that Monday or so, they will pay the NAPCO personnel.
I said go back to the mid-year budget review. That's what the minister said. And going forward, there was a strategy to ensure that we bring finality to this NAPCO scheme.
We are still
and
waiting.
Be able to graduate them to the next stages.
Okay.
So given contextually, the NPP got
So if I'm a NAPCO personnel today, you haven't paid me, but you have increased tariffs. You want me to pay more on electricity. Maybe I fall beyond that 0.0 to 30 kilowatts per hour. And so I'll be paying a lot more on electricity. You haven't paid me.
The NAPCO person.
How am I supposed to survive?
Before the creation of the scheme, ask how they were surviving. Thank you.
Okay, Fred.
You see, these are colleagues in NPP and they have no shame.
How do you say that?
Seriously, I'm scandalized. I'm surprised.
How?
That you have been in power for 6 good years. The resources that has come to you as a government, you still have the audacity to come and sit on TV3, morning show, look the people of Ghana in the face, and start pointing fingers at a government that left office 6 years ago. If NDC has done this, if NDC has done that, who for you to come into power?
Oh.
Please hold it.
But you are
please hold it. When you were talking, I kept
you left us a bone.
You see, Igbo, you have no shame.
You had left some muscle on it. If you had left some muscle on it, you have built on it.
You have no shame and you have no regard and respect for the people of this country.
Because they are referring to the NDC.
You apologize to the people of this country that you have so badly mismanaged the economy that we don't even know where we are heading today. You still have the effrontery to come into a radio, look at Ghanaians and tell them, blame the NDC.
Freddie Stevie.
Oh, please. Yes, TV. And tell Ghanaians to blame NDC. Which government has gotten the kind of resources that you have gotten in the past 6 years in the history of Ghana? Money you have borrowed, Eurobond, domestic borrowing, all the money that accrued to you, the oil that we found, the money you have gotten from there. What have you used the money for? What can you point to? You come and sit here and you are still blaming NDC. Let me start from where Kojo ended, that it's mad that people don't read. And that when PRC put their documents out, we all didn't read to understand the increment.
He didn't say all of us. He said people didn't.
I don't know.
Did you read?
I don't know which people he's referring to. I don't need to sit down the whole night to read, to know that my electricity bill is going to increase by 36% in my house. I don't need to sit down the whole night, put my feet in water, and read the document to understand that. That if in the past I was paying 10 Ghana cedis, now I'm going to pay 13.6 Ghana cedis. I don't need to read to know that. Because the money is coming from my pocket. The ordinary teacher, the nurse, the young man who has just come to the university doing national service, the cameraman in TV3, including you, Bella, you don't need to spend the whole night reading.
Because I have to ask questions.
Hold it, to know that your electricity bills are going up by 36%.
I need to because I have to ask questions.
That,
so I will spend the night
reading. As for you, I know you are very rich, so I'm not. I mistakenly
no, you can't come and say, you know, I'm very rich.
I'm mistakenly mentioning your name.
My colleague here read it.
So Kojo to say that whole Kojo hold.
Fred.
See, it appears the president and this government doesn't know what Ghanaians are going through. There are very little appreciation of the challenges Ghanaians are going through in this country today. And I am not surprised. Because there's a president who is going around telling the whole world that, oh, my ministers are doing well. My government is performing magic. Everything is okay. It's just like a man who is in a ship, and then the ship is sinking, but he's in the compartment where water cannot get there, and he's sleeping. So water is not touching him. So as far as he's concerned, the ship is still flowing. Meanwhile, the ship is sinking. The government doesn't seem to appreciate what Ghanaians are going through. That you're a teacher who have seen only 7% increment in your salary for the past only God knows how long. And yet inflation today is about 32%. Electricity from your domestic usage is going up by 36%. And you know what that means For everything that you do, your lorry fare is going up, price of food is going up, the school fees you have to pay for your kids, everything else is going up. Water is going up by some 21% on average. And you think Ghana should not talk about it, Ghana should not complain.
But to be
fair, you come and sit here and say that we are doing this, we are speaking.
To be fair,
Ghana don't eat brofo.
Fred, to be fair, it looks like the opposition always dismisses the fact that there were external factors that also drove us to where we are today.
What is what?
They
global.
Played a role.
What's
yes.
the global issue?
But if you say government doesn't care, I mean, if you listen to PURC, they're saying that, in fact, it would have gone higher. But there were some loans that government gave to the ECG that ECG was supposed to pay back. Government says, hold on to those loans. We're not going to take that now because if we do, then the burden will be on you and you transfer it to the consumers. And so hold on with that. Is that not a way of government also trying to at least step in and cushion us a bit?
You are behaving as if the money, that so-called loan that they give to these companies belongs to the president. It's all of us our money. And so if you are in difficult situations, that is why we work to get our money. We must benefit from it. What other nations across the world are doing that? They are coaching their people. People who are in the house, even that working, government is finding ways and means to pay them money.
They
government, can you allow me, please?
Just a reminder.
And who should they to the bone?
That's what you said.
You see,
that's what you said.
My brothers,
we had no reserves.
They are very shameless.
We had no reserves. There were no reserves. You left.
Let him land.
You are not going to allow me to
let him
heck
land.
like this.
My
because
time
we need
is
to show
up,
some
so please
respect,
let him land so we can go. I'm already being counted down.
You understand?
Oh, really? I can't make that final submission.
No, but Bella,
is that allowed?
Let me see. It is only in Ghana. It is only in Ghana that we can tolerate this government to live in office for under 1 day. In a serious country by now, we should be chasing the CNP guys out of power. You don't deserve to remain in power for the next 1 day.
How are you going to do that?
You are poor managers of the economy. You are not to you. This document
when we slept in Doomsday for 5 years, when you take out of office
for another 4 years,
that is the problem in Doomsday for 5 years.
You have no shame.
When you kept us in Doomsday for 5 years,
there's enough for the guys.
Gentlemen, please. Okay, let me read messages at this point because I don't think that. Gentlemen, okay, let me read messages, please. Messages, can I have the messages now? Gentlemen, easy. So, Johnny, even advance payment of rent is against the law. These people are just blatant lies. God help Ghana. General MK from Ablekuma. The government must heed to the call of Ghanaians to reshuffle his finance and agri ministers with immediate effect to save the sinking economy. Afrania from Pakusi Estate. I pray and hope that the MPP majority will not back down their stand on their justification, so that the good people of the constituency will let them know that Ghana is not for the MPP. Mustafa from Wulensi. MPP were making noise in 2016 that tariffs are expensive than rent. What has changed now? Everything is increasing except salaries. MPP government here, never again a blood day. Fia Kuma Zongo Takrade. Harriet, can I let Kojo speak now? Oh, my time is up. Harriet, 30 seconds.
Let me just...
You people didn't allow me. I just wanted Kojo to finish.
You didn't protect me.
I told you people to hold on and cease fire. Okay, we have to go. Kojo, I'm so sorry about this, but unfortunately, your colleagues will not make it easy for us to. Kojo Poku is an energy expert. Fred Agbenyo is a deputy international relations manager for the NDC. And Issa Hussein is a former MP of Kankwe North constituency. This segment has been brought to you by Niche Chocolate and Niche Cocoa Drink. You can drink it to cool your tempers if you are also having this. But we'll be back with more. This is TV3Newday.